Hello everyone and welcome to Call Sign Charlie Models. It is time for another inbox review, and today we have the Trumpeter 135th CH-47A Chinook. This is going to be an absolutely amazing looking kit. It's going to be a big kit for a helicopter especially. So the length and wingspan of this is 442 millimeters by 110 millimeters, which equates to about 17 and a half inches in length and only 4 inches in width. So it's definitely only including the actual fuselage length of the Chinook. It's not including the rotor span of this, so it's going to be much larger than what is noted on the model brief in this kit. So we have a total of more than 310 pieces. We do have some metal landing gear, it says here, which, come to find out, isn't always true. I have done a few of these where it does say metal landing gear and there is no metal landing gear in the kit. We also have one photo etch fret and then a film part for our instrument and a total sprue count of 13 sprues. So going off onto the side of this kit, we have two different schemes here. We have the 228th ASHB 1st Cav Division Air Mobile Lai Key Vietnam 1970 right here. And then we have the U.S. Army Aviation Systems Command during 1966 here. So this one is a little bit more colorful. If I'm going to be doing one, I'm going to be doing this one right here. And then we go off to the other side of the box. There's not much to this side, just a nice little history about the CH-47A, and then also some nice pictures of the built model right here. So we're going to get the box opened up. Let's see how packed of plastic it is. Typical of Trumpeter, the boxes are nice, thick, and will give a lot of good support and protection to the kit. And then when we open it up, it's very nicely packed. We have the two fuselage halves right here protected, and then everything else is underneath. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get everything pulled out and set off to the side, and then we'll start getting into the instructions, the decals, and all the plastic. So give me 1 second and I'll be right back. Alright, so starting off with the instructions, we have item number 05104, and then we have the typical Trumpeter style of instructions in the booklet format in landscape as well. So going off, we have the nice little legend of symbols that we'll be using throughout the instructions right here. Then we open it up and we have our sprue callouts. The sprues are not numbered in the sprue callout, so pay close attention to the actual sprues. Don't lose any of those pieces or numbers on there. Alright, and then we have all the landing gear parts right here. This says metal parts, but I just looked in the box and they are plastic. So we've been bamboozled again. Alright, then moving right along, starting off with our interior, we have our extinguisher, and then we're adding in a few parts into our flight deck right here with the rudder pedals, our cyclic and our collective going in right along here, as you can see. And then we're starting off with our instrument panels and our switch panels as well, getting all of those pieces on right along in here, and then we're getting that attached into the fuselage as well. And we do have a film piece, and I'm assuming that this is going to be a clear piece right here that we're going to have to paint up. And I think for me, what I'll be doing is I'll be getting the Quinta Studios 3D printed decals for that. After that, we're working on our seats. We do have some photo etch seat belts right here to add in, and then we're getting those on the flight deck. Then after that, we're working on some bulkhead detail, getting some parts in, some circuit breaker panels in, and all of that going on right through there. Then we have our cargo hook door right here going together. Then we're getting that into the flight deck or the cargo deck. Then after that, we have a few more pieces to add in. It looks like some radio components going on right here, and then some more detail going on the back of the bulkhead right there. Then we have the fuselage halves, looks like we have to paint the interior right here. It doesn't look like it's going to be the typical helicopter where you build up the interior clamshell and then you put the actual fuselage on the outside. So getting all of this painted up, and then you have your windows here. Might have to do some scratch building to remove the quilted area right here. Not sure, gonna have to do some research on that. I have seen different pictures with it being all framework and no sound dampening equipment in there, so definitely gonna have to decide which way we're gonna go. We also need to make a couple holes in the fuselage as well. After that's all done, we are getting the flight deck and the cargo deck put into our fuselage along with a ceiling right there. And then we're starting work on our engines, getting our engines all done right there. Then we have the sponsons and the engines getting added. And then we have an option of having the this door in or out, as well as this boarding ladder right here. After that, we have a few antennae to add right here all along the side of this fuselage, along with the other sponson and engine going in there as well. Okay, moving right along, we have our rear cargo door, the top side of it going in. And then after that, we are adding in our landing gear parts. We have rubber wheels for this. And then it says to make 6 lines in the rubber. So you're going to have to scribe the rubber. Yeah. Alright, so then after that, we are adding in a bunch of antennas and lumps and bumps, and also our door for our cargo hook right here. Then adding in the other landing gear section, a couple of other odds and ends to here, and then a couple panels as well going on. After that, we are working on our cargo door, our main cargo door going on right here. If you have it in the lower position, you can have these ramps in. It has 2 different options for ramps, as you can see right there. And then after that, we are just adding in, can't tell where this piece goes. I'm assuming it goes right in here in between. This is going to be covering up the shaft, the propeller shaft right here, or prop shaft, rotor shaft. And then a couple other antennas and navigation lights and pitot tubes and all that. Then after that is all done, we are working on our rotor assemblies, getting all those attached and on. Hopefully these will be nice strong attachments, so you don't have rotor droop after a couple of years of sitting on the workbench or on the display shelf. And then moving right along, the last step is getting the rotor blades attached into the fuselage. It does say they are rotatable, so you don't glue them in. Then we also have the windshield wipers going in as well. So that's it for the instructions. Then next up, we have our color callouts. Again, nice big color callouts here with the U.S. Army Aviation Systems Command right here from 1966. Nice and colorful with the yellow band and orange on the tail and some on the nose right there. We have the left and right side profiles, and then we have the top profile right here. And then finally we have the 228th ASHB 1st Cav Division Air Mobile Light Key Vietnam 1970. So definitely I'm thinking I'll be doing this one when I do it. And then nothing on the back side. Alright, so up next we have our decals. So we only have one decal sheet with this. Decals, trying to figure out which way is the right side up. Decals do seem maybe a little bit thick on here, especially for the walkways on those, and then also the emblems, the national insignia right here. Yeah, and then we have a little bit of like a bubbling, or I can't tell what that is on there. You can see it when the light hits it on all the walkways. So I'm not sure on how these decals are going to go. I might, if they are still available, try to get some Warner's Wings decals for these instead. Alright, so up next we have our Trumpeter photo etch for our grills that go in front of all the engines and our seat belts and all of that. The photo etch does feel, I mean, it is bendable right here. It doesn't feel too thick on it. And the seat belts actually do have a decent amount of detail on these. If I can get you zoomed in a little bit more so you can see. But yeah, the detail on that is actually pretty nice. I really do not like how they add this film to the photo etch. I don't know what it's protecting, but again, some nice photo etch. The grills look really good and all that. So again, very nicely done on that. And then we also do get a clear film for our instrument panel as a two-part instrument panel right here. So you're going to paint the back side of the plastic white, glue this on, and then you'll glue the other piece on. So it's a three-part instrument panel on that. Alright, so starting off with our fuselage halves on here. Let me get you zoomed out just a little bit. So the detail on here does look fairly nice. We do have a couple of like ejector pin nubs like right there to take care of. And that one's going to take some putty because it is actually indented in the model, so there is a little bit of a recess in there to take care of as well. But as for the rivet detail and panel lines, they do look okay. Maybe a little bit heavy, but again, I think with this one, and also, okay, so we do have a seam line going all the way down here, and the plastic goes a little bit rough. There's like a different box right in here that we're going to need to sand down and retake care of on that. And then also some flash on this fuselage edge right here. So also what I'm thinking is with this rivet detail, it does go a little bit soft in certain areas. Like right in here, it really won't show up on camera like it is, but it does in person. It looks like it's going soft. And the other note I'm going to put about this is I do believe the Chinook does have raised rivets, so definitely going to be going in there and replacing all these recessed rivets with positive rivets on that. But for the most part, it looks okay. It's going to be a good starting out point for your rivet detail. But if you're going to leave it like this, you're definitely going to need to go in and re-rivet some of the areas that go a little bit soft. Now we flip it over to the other side. We do have this Trumpeter stamp right here that you'll need to sand down, and also a few ejector pin marks on that. And then we have the quilted texture, or the sound dampening texture right here. Not sure about that. I might be filling all that in and then doing some scratch building for interior with the framing and all that going in. So that's where that one is sitting. And then we have the other side, or the back side of it. Not worried about this section right here. On the back side we have more of that quilted or sound dampening material right here. And then for this, the framing right here, we have a lot of I'm not sure if we're going to have boxes that go in there or other parts that go in there, but if not, that's going to take a lot of filling and sanding to take care of on this kit. And then again, we have the Trumpeter stamp on this piece. This one is not a huge issue because you're really not going to be able to see it because it's going to be closed up. You're going to have the rotor head on top of it, so this one is not really an issue. And then for this one, I do actually think that their bulkheads go in here somewhere to help hide this as well. So that's where that is standing. On the top side of here, we're also going to have the that rotor box, the shaft box that goes in there. And as you can see, the detail on it just goes a little bit soft on there. Alright, so for the other side of the fuselage, it's just basically a rinse and repeat. We have the same issues that we had on the other side with some of the detail going soft. We also have this mold seam going right down the the side right here, and this one is actually a lot worse than the other side. There's a fairly decent step between the two, so definitely going to have to see how sanding that out, and if we're going to have to use putty to get that smoothed out. But again, the rivet detail going around this bend right in here, it just goes a little bit soft, and actually there's some like teardrop rivets right in here too. So again, the rivet detail on this and the panel line detail is just inconsistent on how it looks. And then on the inside we have the same level of detail that's on the other one, and then the same thing with the back side as well. Now let's see how this fuselage half is going to match up. Seems like it's going to be okay. I'm not sure. There were some, yeah, there's nubs right here. Let's get these. Okay, so I cleaned off the nubs that were on the edge of that, and getting this together, right? So it looks, yeah, we're definitely going to have some filling to do on the join of right here. So yeah, as you can see right there, there's a decent gap, and even this plastic right here, it's not a good mold on this plastic. Alright, so up next we have the rubber wheels right here. In the instructions it said carve 6 wheels, so I was nervous about these wheels being just solid solid rubber with no detail on them. But taking a look at it, so there are some detail lines on here, as you can see, hopefully. So I don't know why they had you carve 6 lines into it. It looks like there's already, maybe you need to carve 1 more line into it, because there's, from what I can see, 5 or 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you're going to need to carve 2 more lines into this if you decide to use these wheels. Alright, and then up next we have our metal landing gear. This looks a lot like plastic to me. I don't see metal cores to it, and it is bending like plastic. So looks like we've been bamboozled once again by a Trumpeter, saying that it's metal parts, but it's actually plastic parts. And like I said, I don't see any metal core or anything sticking out of this. We do have a couple of ejector pin marks, like one right here and then another one right here, but the wheel is going to be covering up this one right here, so not any issues with that. But the issue is the fact that they said metal landing gear and it's plastic landing gear. Alright, and then up next we have our front nose section right here, molded all as one piece. The plastic does look nice and clear. We do have a few little scratches on here, but nothing too bad. And in real life, canopies aren't going to be perfect. There are going to be imperfections in them, as you can see. Now, taking care of this nub right here, you're going to have to be very careful cutting that off, because otherwise, if you cut it too close, you are going to get a nice spider web crack right down the middle of this window right here. Definitely going to need to be very careful with that. And then we have the other clear part with our instrument panel and some navigation lights as well. I'm hoping that there's another clear sprue with our side windows. But the instrument panel does look very nice. You're going to have the decal that's on the back side of it, showing off all the dials, so that looks pretty nice. Again, the 3D printed studio or 3D printed Quinta Studios decals I think will be a little bit better, but that should be suffice. Alright, so up next we have a sprue that contains our rotor head assemblies right here. They look really basic, not much detail to them. So there's that, our fire bottles and everything, those look okay. And then all the other detail on here just looks okay. We do have this little ducting right here with some nice molding on that. But the problem is it does come in half, so when you sand down that seam line, you're really going to lose a lot of that detail on there. So, and then again, some nice rivet detail on the side of these pieces right here. Flip it over to the other side. These are our ramps for our cargo door. Again, nice and smooth. Not sure if these were actual like graded or anything like that. So, and then no issues with the underside on any of these pieces. Alright, and then up next we have another sprue that has our cargo door, the rear spine right here. Again, not much detail to that, and then all the other pieces, they just seem okay with this. On the reverse side, so for our doors right here, we do have a couple of ejector pin marks, rather large ones, but hopefully those will sand out fairly easy with a little bit of putty. Then this door doesn't have any ejector pin marks, and I'm not sure about these. We do have a little bit of flash on the edge of the ejector pin marks, but those knock down pretty quickly. And then for this cargo door, we do have a number of ejector pin marks on that one as well. But all in all, I'm not seeing anything that is like a showstopper right now. Alright, so up next we have a double sprue. This one is some more of our engine work. Looks like our seats as well. And then just a lot of other detail parts going on right here, like our rotor shafts right there. As you can see, everything else. Then on the reverse side, really not worried about anything. On here, we do have some nice fan detail on this piece right here for our engine. But that's about the extent of the detail on this one. Alright, so up next we have just a bunch of detail for our engine area right in here. The rivet detail on here it's okay. It's not bad, but it's not good. So yeah, and it does go like right here in this little crevice right here. It does go very weak. There is a little bit of rivet detail on there, but it does go very shallow on that. And then we have our wheel hubs right here. Again, it's just okay detail. It's not like anything to write home about on that. And the same thing. And then we have our basically our FOD protectors right here, where we're going to have those PE parts that go in front of everything. So those should be okay. I don't know how easy the photo etch is going to bend into that, so we'll have to see when we build it. Then up next we have our propellers, or our rotors, not propellers, rotors. We do have a little bit of flash on the edge of this one. There is a nice droop molded into them, as you can see right here. Hopefully there is a droop to them, so that's nice. You won't have to worry about putting that into the rotors. But yeah, there is a decent amount of flash on these that is going to take a good amount of cleanup, as you can see right there. Then we have the underside to our rotor connections right here. Alright, and up next we have our sponsons and cargo door and all that going on. The detail on the cargo door does look okay for the rivet and panel line detail on there, as you can see. The sponsons, again, the detail on there actually looks pretty decent. Not seeing any real issues. We do have a mold seam that goes right along the edge right here. That's going to need to be sanded down, and also goes all the way down, all the way back here. So definitely going to need to sand that. That's just from where the molds come together to get that. So pretty easy, pretty light to sand down. Shouldn't be too bad on those, but it is on both of them on the underside, and it will be visible from the side when looking at it. Now for the cargo door ramp, I do have some nice rivet detail on that, as you can see. Should build up very nicely. And then we have some instrument panels and electronic panels right there. The detail on those are, by today's standard, a little bit basic. So definitely going to look into the Quinto Studios set for the full interior. Alright, and then moving on, like I said, we do have another sprue of clear parts for all of our side windows that go on here. They do seem, from the plastic, they do seem nice and clear. I'm not seeing any issue with any of these clear parts. Alright, so up next is our last sprue. Alright, so we have a few of the bulkheads right through here, and then we have the ceiling going on. We do have that sound dampening material on here. I'm hoping that the camera will pick that up again. And then we do have a couple of ejector pin nubs right in here to clean up on that. But just moving right along, detail on it does feel very nice, somewhat nice. Again, the quilted stuff right here. And then on the cargo deck, we do have some nice raised rivet detail on that piece. I'm hoping, yeah, the camera will pick that up right there. So very nicely done on that piece. And then on the flight deck, just a little bit of panel line and rivet detail, but you're going to be covering up a lot of this area with your seats and your control levers and your instrument panels and all that. So not too worried about all of that. And then on the reverse side, the only thing that you're really going to be able to possibly see would be, not that, maybe in here. I highly doubt it. But yeah, that would be the only area that would be even a possibility of seeing. But everything else on here does look okay. Again, with the switch panel right here for the overhead panel, the switch detail just seems very rudimentary, very basic for that. So definitely, again, Quinto Studios plus a little bit of scratch building and everything, I'll really bring that part of life, because you will be able to see this when you're looking through all the windows right there. Alright, so that is everything for the Trumpeter 135th CH-47A Chinook. And typical of Trumpeter, this is a good starting out point for the Chinook. Yes, it's going to take a little bit of work with the rivet detail and some of the mold seams on there, but those shouldn't be too bad to take care of. I think when I build this, I am going to go in there and replace the rivets with raised rivets. But other than that, and then a little bit, maybe some scratch building on the inside, and then also the cockpit, definitely going to go with the Quinto Studio stuff, and then the resin wheels for the wheels. So yes, it's going to take a little bit of aftermarket, a little bit of scratch building, and some more work to get this to look right, but it should build up to be a nice kit. It's going to be a very large and impressive kit when it is all done. So yeah, that's all I have to really say about this kit. I hope you guys enjoyed this inbox review. I hope if you're on the fence about getting this kit, I hope that it helped with your decision. If you haven't yet, don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment down below if you've built this one. Let us know if there were any issues with the fit or anything on this kit. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great day, and stay frosty and happy modeling.